Baltimore Ravens, let's just face it, they've not been playing good football. Now, there is always one good side of that coin. If you're not going to win football games, you at least have a pretty high draft pick. So on today's show, we're going to look forward to April, late April that is, and I'm going to give you my top Baltimore Ravens draft targets based off of Mel Kiper's most recent NFL draft big board. You got to stay tuned. You're going to be excited to see some of those names. I also would be really excited if you guys like today's video. The most likes we've gotten on a video in December, 374. Now, the most likes the Steelers have gotten on a video is 515. If you want to be better than the Steelers are, which I would hope you do, if you hate them like I do, if you want them to lose every single game for the rest of this year and for the rest of their existence, like today's show, let's get to 600 likes at minimum, and we'll get started with today's show. Mel Kiper makes his return from hibernation, usually around this time every single year. He's incredibly active all the way up into the draft, and then it seems we don't hear from him. And then he comes out with a big board, and we're going to give you some draft targets off that big board. Now, the reason we are talking about this is because your team is under 500, ladies and gentlemen, which sucks to watch. However, it's not horrible when you realize that they've got a decent chance to land a top draft pick. Right now, I believe they're slotted around 13, and they got the 4% chance to land a top 10 pick. The standings right now are as followed. Steelers at the top at 7-6. Number 2, that's where you find the Ravens at 6-7. Bengals at 4-9. Browns at 3-10. The only way you make it into the playoffs is if you win your division. Right now, you are second in your division, and Steelers have the head-to-head. Basically, it feels like you got to win out, okay? And let's face it, that's going to be very, very difficult to do. You got to go on the road to Cincinnati. You got to play New England. Got to go on the road to Green Bay. Got to go on the road to Pittsburgh. So it's easy to see at least like 3 more losses in there. Hell, there's a world where you lose every one of those games. And if that's the case, then we really got to lock in on the NFL draft. Going into the draft, I think the Ravens have 5 big needs. Offensive line and defensive line. Starting off, edge rusher, really big one. Offensive guard is a massive one. Defensive tackle, I think, is really, really big. You just got to improve and get bodies in the trenches. If you do that, I think you look at wide receiver, and I also think you look at linebacker as well. But I would like to go heavy defense and heavy offensive line. Look, Eric DeCosta does not have much room for error. If John Harbaugh is back as this team's head coach in 2026, you are going to expect and need big things from him in this next season. And if not, he might be coaching for his job. Hell, he might be coaching for his job this year. You need to crush the draft, get a lot better talent, better depth, and go into 2026 with a little bit more confidence than what we've got right now in this season. Let's start with David Bailey. He's an outside linebacker, edge rusher at Texas Tech. On Mel Kiper's big board, he is the number 11 prospect. He is 6'3", 250 pounds, a little bit of a skinnier edge rusher. Think James Pierce Jr. from last year's draft. Maybe not as tall, but not like this absolutely jacked Nick Bosa type build. From Irvine, California, 42 tackles, 13 and a half sacks this season, and 3 forced fumbles for the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Mel Kiper went on by saying, a transfer from Stanford, Bailey gets after the quarterback. He had 14 and a half sacks over 3 seasons for the Cardinal, and he most notably has been more of a finisher this season. His 21.5% pressure rate is second in the nation, and he's up to 12 and a half sacks in 11 games with the Red Raiders, unlocking another level of his game. Look, David Bailey's a stud. He might be the best just straight-up athlete when it comes to defensive linemen in this next year's draft. And so because of that, I would love the possible addition. Mike Green, I don't want to say he's been a disappointment, but I think we all expected a little bit better things out of Mike Green. You're getting no pressure on the quarterback, and that's causing you, and it's a big reason that you're losing these football games. That's got to change. You win in this league, you win championships by being able to pressure opposing quarterbacks. Let me know, which position should the Ravens draft in the first round of the 2026 NFL Draft? Let me know in the comment section what you think down below. We talked David Bailey. All right, now we're going to talk defensive tackle. Let's go a little bit more inside on the interior. Peter Woods, big board ranking, number 13, defensive tackle for the Clemson Tigers. On Mel Kiper's original big board, he was a little bit higher. He actually was the number 6 prospect. Dropped him a little bit in his big board 2.0. 6'3", 315 pounds. He's only 20 years old, which is awesome. But the thing is, the production in 2025 necessarily has not been there. And Mel Kiper even addresses that. He says Woods has not been elite in 2025, but the skill set is exactly what NFL teams covet. In the pros, Woods would fit nicely at the 3 technique, though he has nice versatility to move around on a defensive front. He plays on the inside the majority of the time, but he also can be disruptive off the edge. His strength will intrigue a lot of NFL teams no matter where he lines up. Now, I've got some mixed emotions, some mixed thoughts, some mixed opinions on Peter Woods. Like, I don't know how interested I am in a project or how interested I am in a risk. Like, the thing that I'm interested in is drafting a guy who's had success in college. Like, I think it's so easy to fall in love with pedigree, fall in love with size and strength. Me personally, I fall more in love with guys who dominate at that level. Because how can you expect them to dominate at the next level if they haven't been doing it at the current level they're playing football? Now, I know that like once in a blue moon, you take a risk on these targets and it works out very, very well. But also, there's a lot of times where it doesn't. And I don't think Baltimore's in a position to take that risk in the first round. What Peter Woods reminds me a lot of is Mozzie Smith out of Michigan. If you remember his draft at all, Cowboys took him in the first round. I believe that was 2022. Maybe, let's say 2022. Regardless, he didn't have a ton of production, but he was a freak athlete, unbelievable strength. And I think he's maybe gotten 3 tackles in 3 seasons. So I don't know how interested I am in that. I know something you will be interested in, though. It's our awesome sponsor of today's show, our great friends over at Prize Picks. It is the holiday season, which means it's the best time of the year for sports, bowl games, basketball matchups, playoff pushes. It is all happening at once. And while you and I are out here making decisions every day, what gifts to buy, what to eat, which game to watch, there's one place where it feels good to be right, and that's Prize Picks. My wife couldn't even name 4 pro teams coming into this season, and then we started playing on Prize Picks, and now every single Saturday night, we're breaking down who she's picking for her lineup. It's the most exciting way to watch football. Prize Picks now has early payouts. If your lineup gets off to a hot start, you may have the option to cash out those winnings before the game even finishes. Here's my Prize Picks lineup for SEC, college football playoff games happening next weekend. Took the more on Trinidad Shambles, 1.5 passing touchdowns more. Ty Simpson, half a rushing touchdown. John Mateer, I took the more on his half a rushing touchdown as well. I know the college football playoff is still a little bit over a week away. I'm excited, though. Hopefully you guys are excited as well. Get even more excited with our friends at Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Links to this promo is in the comments and description of today's video. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Let's stay on the defensive line, shall we? Can you tell what I think the biggest need for the Baltimore Ravens is? Reuben Bain Jr., edge rusher for the Miami Hurricanes. A lot of people kind of midway through the season thought there was a chance this guy was going to be the number 1 overall pick, like number 1 pick taken that's not a quarterback. I think his production has fallen off a little bit as the season's gone on, but he's still incredibly impressive. 6'3", 275 pounds. He's a lot more built than David Bailey Jr. is, or than David Bailey is. Maybe not as fast, but there's a lot of things to like about him, man. And Mel Kiper said he's a powerful and really strong hands. He routinely gets the best of some very good offense tackles, often with his dominant rip move, and he knows every trick in the book in getting home to the quarterback. Bain also shows speed and bend off the edge. He takes good angles. Plus, he can hold the edge against the run and get off blocks to chase down ball carriers. His tape is just filled with disruption. Now, this might be my number 1 choice right now because I feel like he's got pro-ready size. He's got a pro-ready bag. And I also what I really love about him is his effort, his hustle. You're never going to wonder, did Reuben Bain just kind of give up pursuing that play? Seems like every single snap, he's given it his all, his 100%. And he has everything you want, size, tape, and production, which I think is a big thing that people will just for some reason forget around the NFL draft. I'm not one of those people. Name a player you want the Ravens to draft down below in the comment section. Drop a name for me, all righty? Let me know who you want. We talked defensive line. Let's talk offensive line now, okay? How about Vega Ioane? Formerly played for the Penn State Nittany Lions. Number 17 overall prospect in Mel Kiper's big board. Plays offensive guard. And Vega is a guy that kind of came into this season with not a ton of hype around him. Like, people thought he was going to be good at Penn State, but I don't think people really had their eye on him in NFL draft circles. Well, that has changed. 11 games played, 0 sacks allowed for the Nittany Lions. Vega drives defensive tackles, Mel Kiper says, off the ball and sustains his blocks well. He can get to the second level and torque defenders out of the way, and he's incredibly agile at left guard for his size. Ioane has 31 career starts, has given up only 2 sacks over that time, both in 2023. Look, we know this is a massive need. We don't really even need to discuss it that much. We know that Daniel Faalele is not getting the job done, and frankly, let's call a spade a spade. Neither is Andrew Voorhees. I would be so content if Vega got drafted in the first round by Baltimore, and then next year, your starting offensive line at the guard spots, Emory Jones Jr. and Vega Ioane. Sign me up for that right now. Another guy who would be hard to pass on is Makai Lemon, okay? We're going to round things out offensively. He's the big board number 7 prospect, so highest that we've talked about today. However, you know, with a lot of quarterbacks going above him, there is a chance he slides all the way down to the Baltimore Ravens. 5'11", 195 pounds, 79 catches on the season, 1,100 yards, 11 touchdowns. And the impressive thing is like he did that with also having to share the rock with Jordan Tyson, another wide receiver that's going to go in the first round. Imagine if he didn't have him on that team. This kid would have caught for like 1,600 yards. Kid's a warrior, Mel Kiper says, who plays passion. I'd want Lemon on my roster. He snatches the ball away from his body in an attacking manner, then runs with a fierce approach after the catch. He is one of my favorite players in the class. He currently ranks 3rd in the nation in receiving yards. Look, if he's available, that's a really tough choice because I think wide receiver is a need, but I don't think it's a top need. But Lemon is one of those players that's incredibly hard to pass on because you know and you feel like he could be a generational talent. But is it worth it passing on to defensive linemen or offensive linemen? The good thing is it's only December. We don't have to figure that out right now. Make sure you got me followed on socials, Twitter, Instagram. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Daily videos right here on the Baltimore Ravens Rundown where you could go and hang out with us every single day.